Good morning. How's everyone today? I just have to share with you, it's really cold up here. Now, I'm from New York, right? So any opportunity I have to go to somewhere where I think is warmer, I take. So I'm a little disappointed by the weather, but I will forge on. You've heard a little bit about my background. I am a tenured professor at CUNY Law School. I want to congratulate those members in the audience who've already been accepted to law school. And I invite you to keep in touch with me and let me know how your progress is, if you have any questions, difficulties, anything like that, especially during your first year. Because the first year of law school is much different than any other endeavor you've had. Right? You may have heard that, you may have heard your friends or relatives saying how hard law school is. But until you're there, you don't know really what they're talking about. You think you know, but you don't. Because one of the things about law school is that you're going to learn a new language. It's going to be English, right? You're going to think, well, I speak English. I speak English at home. I've spoken English all through my educational career. Why is she calling this a new language? It's because the way certain words are used in the law, right? You may think you know what the word means, but you have to understand what it means in the legal context. And you have to learn the legal terms of art. And that is easier for some people than others. So one piece of advice I have for all of you prospective law students is to create your own glossary of words. Right? When you hear words used in the legal context, even if you think you know what they mean, just take a little note and look them up later. When you're doing reading, and you're going to do a lot of reading in law school, especially your first year, make sure you have not only a legal dictionary with you, but also an English collegiate dictionary, the regular dictionary you can, when they used to have bookstores you could walk in, but now I guess you can order online from Amazon. And you're going to look up words as you're going through. One hint, if there are any cases that your professors ask you to read that was published, these cases were published before the 1900s, make sure you have a dictionary when you're reading that case, right? Because the language usage has changed since then. That's just a tip. Those of you who haven't been accepted yet, don't worry about it, you'll pick it up. Why do you want to go to law school? How many people want to go to law school because they want to make shitloads of money? You already make shitloads of money. This is one of my former students. That shows you how old I am. I was a student when she was in her first year of law school. She was in my contracts class. How many of you want to go to law school because you want to give back to your community? You want to either be a politician or an activist or somehow to improve your community? If I can see hands. Oh, there's a lot of you in the house. Okay, good. How many of you want to go to law school because you want to be socially acceptable and you don't know what else to do after graduation? You're laughing, but I have to tell you that one of the reasons I went to law school is I had been working, I had been a banker, I had gotten my MBA, but I wasn't really passionate about business. I didn't have the contacts to get into the areas of business that I had been interested in as a student, but so I went into banking, and I did okay in banking, but it just wasn't my passion. So I decided, okay, well, I have to stop this. I want to do something else. So I looked around and tried to decide what to do. I'm really a professional student. If someone would have paid me to stay in school, I would have a lot more degrees than I do now. But no one was offering me that option. So I decided, well, I'm going to go to law school. The law is very connected to banking, so I had picked up some information about the legal area, the legal profession. And I wanted to maintain my social standings. I wanted to be socially acceptable, but not have to work. Right? So I said, well, law school, you know, that's 3 years of not having to work. That was okay for me. Right? And I'm not joking about this. I know it's funny because I laugh at it myself, but I really did go to law school because I didn't know what else I wanted to do with my career. And I didn't want to get on welfare. I didn't want to be a bag lady. I thought about it, but I decided, no, I didn't want to do those things. I had a nice apartment I was living in. I wanted to continue to live there. So I decided to go to law school. And I thought I was going to be an entertainment lawyer when I went to law school, and that didn't quite work out, but that's okay. Since a lot of you are wanting to go to law school because you want to give back and to improve your community, there's a couple of things that you need to do. The first thing is remember why you wanted to go to law school. During the first year, it's easy to forget why you want to go to law school as you get immersed in the curricula. Wherever law school you're going to go to, the first year you're going to have a class in contracts, a class in crim law, a class in maybe constitutional law. Some law schools yes, some law schools no. You're going to have a class in torts. Do you know what torts is? Torts are civil harms. Right, so when someone comes over and they punch you in the mouth, that's a tort. Now the question is whether or not it was justified in their defenses that they may be able to assert, but basically a tort is a civil harm. So you're going to have these classes that may or may not be related to your future goals. They're all really related because all of these classes have an artificial boundary. So what's the difference between the crime and the tort? Well, you'll learn more about that in law school, but I'll leave you thinking about what the difference is between those two. Because the effects on the person isn't the same if you commit a crime or a tort. The person being the victim isn't different. If I hit you, if I come downstairs and punch one of you in the mouth, you're going to hurt. Right? And you're going to say, she hit me, she hurt me. And you may want to turn to the court system to be recompensed for this hurt. Right? And then that's where you begin to talk about the differences between torts and crimes. But anyway, you're going to get bogged down in the law, as well you should, right? Because you're a law student. And what we try to do first year is really to get you thinking like a lawyer. You're going to hear that phrase over and over and over from people like me who are law teachers. Right? You have to think like a lawyer. What does that mean? That really just means it'd be logical to look at the action and what result the action brings, and how you get there, how courts get there. But no one's going to break it down that easily for you in law school, right? We're going to just tell you have to think like a lawyer and figure it out for yourself. Excuse me. That's the second difference between the other, possibly the other areas of education you've been involved in law school. A lot of law school learning takes place outside of the classroom, where the professors are never there, right? You're going to be learning from your friends, but more importantly, you're going to be learning a lot of this on your own, right? If you were in my first year contracts class and I assigned you a case to read, I'm not going to tell you, well, I do tell people, but most contracts professors are not going to tell you, make sure you understand each part of the case, each word of the case. They're not going to tell you something. This is another tip. I'm sorry for jumping around, but this came to mind, and you have to write this down. When you're reading legal documents, you have to read the footnotes. Okay, I've had students tell me that no one's ever told them that they had to read the footnotes. So I'm telling you now, regardless of what law school you go to, you have to read the footnotes. Anyway, back to what I was saying. No, really, You just have to read the footnotes. You want to remember what your passion was that brought you to law school. That's going to help midnight one night when you're reading a case in some area of the law that you're not interested in, and you're saying to yourself, why am I doing this? Who made me do this? Why am I here? Right? You're here because of whatever goal caused you to go to law school, and keep that goal in mind. I'm not here to talk a lot about CUNY Law School, but I do just want to say that the City University of New York School of Law is the only public law school in New York City. So if you have any interest in applying to law schools in New York City, please take a look at the CUNY Law School website. That's it. The spies from CUNY Law can say that I did indeed mention the law school. You hear a lot in law school about law school rankings in the US News and World Report. And that's a magazine that does the annual college reports, and they mention what the best college is, and the best law school, and the best med school. It's important for law school applicants to do your own ranking of law schools. Right, bless you. It's important to look at different law school programs and see, and different law schools generally, and see what appeals to you and what doesn't appeal to you. Mr. Keenan mentioned the clinical programs. Most law schools have clinical programs, right? It's a big move now in legal education to try to give their grads, their students, practical training. So you get that through the clinic, which is you represent an actual client, or a concentration. A concentration is similar to an externship, where you're placed at a external law office, law firm, whatever. Right, so you want to see what the actual clinical programs entail at the law schools you're interested in. Because you do want to have that practice, and most law students find the clinics fun, right? This is where I came to law school because I'm really learning something now, right? They're not boring me with cases from the 1800s or the 1700s. This is now, this is live, this is exciting. So you want to see what areas these clinical programs are in. Again, Mr. Keller mentioned that he defended criminals, and his wife defended female prisoners in a jail in Connecticut. Those are two different types of clinics, but there could be family law clinics, there could be civil rights clinics, there are a myriad of different clinics. So you want to look at the areas that these clinics are in. You want to look at the law school and the students you're going to be in class with, because you're going to spend a lot of hours with these people, right? You're not sleeping with them, hopefully, right? But you're going to be spending a lot of time with them. Really. Anyway, I won't pursue that line any further, other than to say you want to make sure that you don't hate your law school colleagues, right? You don't have to love them, but you shouldn't hate them either, right? So you want to spend time looking at the schools, visiting the schools, talking to students to see how the education really is. There's going to be a law school fair this afternoon. There are going to be law schools there. Go check them out and come by. I think it's table 7, CUNY's Law School's table. I'll be there for a little while. But the important thing to keep in mind is to feel that you're going to be comfortable with the law school at the law school. The person who introduced me mentioned legal writing. One of the things that you have to do to prepare for law school, this is not for the people now who've already been admitted. This is for the people who are thinking about law school. you want to take a writing class. If you're still in college, take one. If you're not, take a non-credit class. But hopefully you could take a class in something like business writing or professional writing, as opposed to creative writing. Because you're not going to be creative in law school. There's no such thing as creative in law school, except on your own time. Right? What we're going to be looking for you to do in law school is to present different fact patterns, figure out what the problem is that the facts are presenting, and usually you're going to predict what you think the court is going to do in a case. Another little tip about legal writing: don't make up your own facts. One of the reasons I suggest that you take a business writing class or professional writing class is to get practice in reading a set of given facts and then analyzing those facts. Not the facts you want, right, but the facts that are presented. I happen to think I'm very creative, especially when I'm writing fact patterns for an exam. And I get very upset when students change my facts, right? I say, I'm giving you facts. Why are you changing them? And I actually sometimes write little notes to my students, hoping that they will review their exams before the next one, which is something else that law students should do. And if you're in my class and you've taken an exam of mine, you may find a little personal note asking you, where did you get this fact from? That's not a good note, right? Because this is indicating that either you made up a fact or you changed the fact. And it's easy to do that you may not even be aware that you did it, right? Because you're reading and you're saying, okay, but Edward said not to change your facts, so I'm going to make sure I don't change your facts. And you subconsciously or unconsciously do it anyway. So another tip, law professors get very annoyed when you change our facts. For those of you who are already accepted, a lot of times I get asked the question, well, what should I do the summer before law school? Relax, rest. You'll do very little of those two things while you're in law school, so you want to get that in now. I know some of you may have to work, and if you have to work, obviously you can go ahead. But really don't try to read ahead, look at what you think you're going to be studying during the semester. Some of you may be taking a summer program. And if you are doing that, go ahead. I don't want to discourage you from doing that. But just keep in mind that from August, somewhere in August, September maybe, till December, you are going to be working very hard. And a lot of times you are going to feel that you don't know what you're doing. You're working hard, but you don't know what you're working at, and you're not really reflecting on the experience and what you're learning. So you want to try to be as rested as possible before you start that journey. And you should think about it as a journey to somewhere you want to be, for a goal you want to reach. And as I said before, you're going to keep that goal in mind, even if you have to write it down on a piece of paper and tape it to the wall, right? Because that's why you're there. That's why you're here in this audience right now, and I congratulate all of you, not only the people who've already been admitted to law school, but those of you who are thinking about law school, those of you who are preparing to apply to law schools. I congratulate you all. Attorney Anderson had mentioned earlier some of the job statistics. Keep in mind that you only need one job when you graduate from law school, right? One, not 10, not 100, not 1,000. A lot of people say, well, this is a bad time to go to law school because there are too many lawyers. How many of you have too many lawyers in your neighborhood? I know, oh, I probably do because I live at the law school, right? But most of us, especially neighborhoods of color, do not have too many lawyers in the neighborhood, right? A lot of that, as Attorney Anderson mentioned, is looking at large, huge, humongous law firms. I worked at a small, little, humongous law firm. And what I mean by that is that we had about 200 lawyers, which is considered small in New York City. Right now, most lawyers do not work in those law firms. Most lawyers work in small law firms, right? But the media tells us that we need to worry about those large law firms. So that's why I mentioned them. Some of you may want to work at one of those firms. You've dreamt about it ever since you saw LA Law or Ally McBeal or Boston Legal or whatever legal show you used to watch. And if that's your dream, I don't want to dissuade you from that dream. But most of us lawyers do not work in those law firms. Having experienced, as I said, a so-called small law firm, I didn't want to work there after a while, right? But it doesn't exist anymore because it couldn't survive without me when I left. Shortly thereafter, they folded. But whatever your career path is, you want to do your research. Similar to what I said, that a lot of the learning you're going to be doing on your own, you should do your research. For most of us, it's too late. Like Mr. Keller's daughter, who 20 years ago focused on nanoscience, whatever that is, right? Most of us are older than that now. But it's not too late to start thinking about what you want in the future, right? And I'm not going to take the time here to do this, but you can see me later if you have specific goals that you want to pursue. You want to work in a large law firm, I can tell you what path generally you need to follow. If you want to work at a small law firm or have your own practice upon graduation, I can tell you that too. Now, I can't guarantee anyone anything, right? But I can give you some tips about what paths you want to follow. The major thing is you want to have the information that you need to follow that path so you can reach that goal. Because I don't have a watch, I don't know how much time I have left, so I'm going to sum this up by saying you're going to create your own law school rankings based on what is important to you, and you're going to have some goals set out in mind in terms of what your passion is and to remember your passion. Thank you very much.